Hit record, and we're going to kick this one off. So again, welcome to the post NAR settlement class update here. My name is Joe Brikman. You guys know that already. For those of you who are watching this in the replay, the purpose of this class is in order to be able to review a bunch of the changes that are affecting agents here in the state of Florida and how we as the modern day team are moving forward in really navigating, first of all those documents, and second of all, things like open houses, things like, buyers telling us, I'm only going to go to houses that are offering a buyer's agent commission, so we don't have to pay it. Things like, am I able to do that, right? Is this something that I now need to really look out for, and how we're really also advertising our listings and how we're going about doing that. So we'll jump right into it. Most of the agents that are going to be watching this video are pretty much going to be in the state of Florida. So we're going to really focus here on the state of Florida into the things that, first of all, I'm licensed here in the state of Florida. And I really know my way around it because I've taken the time to learn a lot, pay attention to, what our leaders are sharing with us, and, obviously what the board that's responsible for, all of the legal stuff for the National Association of Realtors here in Miami. So that's where I've been learning a lot of my information from. It's funny because I've been seeing a lot of people who, especially in these mastermind groups, dude, like, going crazy with like, am I going to stack 3 bananas on the table upside down, and then kind of show that we're paying 3%, or am I going to, mow the lawn with like a 3% number in it, or what am I going to do, now to let people know what, that the seller is cooperating with buyer's agents. So first of all, with regards to that, let's just remember here 1 second, right? Me personally, I've been in real estate for 4 years, right? Just coming up on 4 years in November. In the last 4 years, we've experienced so many different changes here in the state of Florida when it comes to how we do real estate. Things like condo reserves in Miami-Dade County, after that building collapse, after multiple buildings were condemned, crazy bidding wars during COVID and during all those other times, from just when people started flooding to our state, buyers who weren't able to close on their properties because of builders, interest rate changes when there were those 2 weeks that interest rates went from like 3 to 4, then from 4 to 6. So many deals were just kicked out. So many listings were lost. All those people who've sold, properties to investors in the name of investment that aren't really working out. There's so many different things in this industry that over the last 2 years, just on their own, we've been through. And now if you want to back it up a tiny little bit, let's go back to the era of 2008, 2009, when 90% of the real estate business basically imploded on itself in a day. You want to go back before that? Remember when they started requiring home inspections and buying houses? I don't remember that. I wasn't able to buy real estate then, but there was a period in time where now for real estate purposes, you had to actually inspect the house and do a proper inspection in order for it to be able to pass things like the insurance, 4-point inspections, things like that. And, all these houses that weren't built properly, there were big, big things that real estate agents had to learn how to overcome. So yes, there are many people who just got licensed, who just showed up, who, are trying to figure out all these different ways to smart the system and, figure out how they can navigate all of it. Let's remember one thing. The entire settlement over here was literally originated, if I dare maybe say this, from greed, right? From lack of working things and doing things properly. Greed is really the way that a lot of things, right, literally says in every single type of scripture, belief, energy, or website that you might, or news feed, or social media app that you might believe in. But really, like, everybody would agree that these types of things are things that make things explode and implode on themselves. So let's remember that, right? At the end of the day, the reason why we got into this business was in order to be able to serve our clients in the highest and best way possible, in order to be able to help people get a home, achieve their dream, do things that most people in their lifetime, they're never going to spend more money than the money that they will spend on their house, not just once, but every year, and the maintenance and, the insurance and taking care of it. A home for people is their most prized possession. So these are things that before we got into this industry, we had to learn that, we had to understand that, we had to internalize that. And then we had to really learn how to be professionals in handling that. Obviously, throughout the process, the bigger the price points, the higher the numbers, the more the all the different things that started, happening in life. Once upon a time, you used to be able to afford to buy a house when you were 18 years old because there were no prom parties, there were no cruises, there were no friend vacations, there were no bachelor parties, there were no bachelorette parties, there were no end of month celebrations, there were no quarterly. None of that stuff existed. So there was more money in the regular amount of money that people had in order to be able to live, because that's just how things are going. But with the natural evolution as to where things are happening, especially here in the state of Florida, especially here in Miami, especially in places where some of these things to people that people come here and they look at, this is crazy. This is people's regular everyday life. So some people sometimes get caught up in this whole process and they forget that people like to sleep indoors. That's the reality. Up on the top of Maslow's hierarchy from the 5 basic human needs, one of the top up there is literally a safe place to call home, a shelter, right? A place to be able to live, to be yourself, to be able to throw off all your clothing as soon as you walk into your house and say, screw it, I'm not talking to anybody for the next 3 days. That's the place you got to be able to do it. You need to have a house. So nothing is changing when it comes to how people are going to be buying houses. What will be changing is the approach that we as professionals are going to be moving forward. Because yes, there are going to be a couple big changes, namely the compensation amount is going to be removed from the MLS. Now, to review this very, very carefully, here in the state of Florida, the only place that compensation is not allowed to be discussed is on the multiple listing service. That is it. So on websites, on Facebook groups, on Instagram, on YouTube, on mailers, on emails, on all of that stuff, you are still able to advertise a buyer's broker's commission. So nothing is really changing aside from the MLS. And let's be honest, most of the people aren't even getting their firsthand information from the MLS because they're working with real estate agents who don't know how to use the auto follow-up systems that are built into our MLS. If you're using Matrix, for instance, Matrix, you can set up contacts, right? And pretty much any MLS that exists has some sort of follow-up system or prospecting system built into it. So all those real estate agents who aren't now taking every single buyer that they've been working with over the last 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 25 years. By the way, I love it when agents tell me after they say something really funny that like they've been in the business for 25 years, because my favorite response back to them is, so why are you still in sales? That's my number one favorite response, right? Usually I only really say that if I'm not trying to win the offer, because, it is kind of like a dig, but at the same time, it's the truth. Like there are people who've been doing this for so long that they're so set in these ways that these tiny little things just kick them out of whack. But let's remember, there are 17 states that even before this whole settlement have still been using buyer brokerage agreements. They may not necessarily have called them buyer brokerage agreement, but 17 other states here in the United States, which is about 50%, just about, right? Like just 17 other states have figured out a way to create buyer brokerage agreements and use them up until today. So, I mean, hey, everybody else just has to get in line. It's kind of when, iPhone introduced Face ID to their phone. Everybody was like, hey, welcome to the party, right? But there were still a loyal group of people who were still, no, iPhone. Listen, I'm a big iPhone fan. I love iPhones, but I will not get out here and say that we have the latest and greatest and best. I just use iPhone because it's simple, because it's easy. See? Steve Jobs built a multi-billion-dollar company, literally billion-dollar company that dominates when it comes to technology that isn't even the best. It's not the best company. But at the same time, the branding, the polarization, the approach, the way that he was able to make everything work, it was simple, it was easy, and that's all that people are looking for. So jumping into this again, now that we have this little reframe in mindset when it comes to how and why we are actually doing this, now let's actually start unpacking the buyer brokerage relationship, right? What exactly is this document, and what are the responsibilities that we're both engaging in? Well, first of all, let's jump into the whole concept of buyers for a second. I feel like all these coaching programs, they have this cadence that they run. It goes one half of the year is buyers, one half of the year is sellers, then maybe another half of the year would be sellers, and then they switch back to buyers, right? So every like 12, 8, 16 months, the game changes up a little bit, but really there's only 2 types of prospects that we work with in our industry. One of them is buyers, the other one is sellers. That's pretty much how it works, right? So no matter which side you're on, it's really just a matter of staying very clear and understanding two things. Number one, how to run clean business, how to make sure that all of your documents, all of your compliance, all of that stuff is lined up well. And number two, actually showing up for your clients in a way where you're truly being the best for them and delivering for them, right? So on the first hand, obviously you have to make sure the same way that you have to have liability insurance and you have to have E&O and you have to be set up with your broker and you have to have all that stuff. These documents are extremely important. The reason they're extremely important is literally because the NAR is going to, or the DOJ, I should say more, is going to be looking for people who are looking for loopholes. Because usually the way things work, right? Who was it that said that? I think it's Maimonides that said, wow, yeah, I'm impressed with myself. That in order to go and correct yourself from being all the way on one angle to extreme, you have to go all the way to the other side. It's like that you can kind of understand, right? Like which way is extreme, and then you kind of balance it out. Next, right? You throw them into recovery or whatever it is. Very, 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 very extreme. Completely cut off, no access to the real world, anything, until they're able to start learning a little bit how to balance it. And then slowly they get reintroduced back into society. Inmates, it's the same thing, right? They go to prison for who knows how long, and then slowly they make it to a halfway house. Once they make it to a halfway house, then they reintroduce them slowly back into society. That's just how these things work, right? So there are going to be a lot of crazy overcorrections over the next few months that are just normal, if you think about it, right? At the end of the day, the NAR is trying to cover their themselves. Brokers are trying to cover themselves. Brokerages are trying to cover themselves. And everybody at the same time, for some reason, is caught up in this whole thing of let me tell the whole world what I'm doing before I actually have it figured out. EXP, I'm talking about you guys, right? I don't have any hate for the company. I love the company. I was with them before I moved over to Real right now. But at the same time, you got to realize that when it comes to working with buyers and sellers, you need both of them in order to put a deal together, right? So you need to have understanding that in order to be able to do a transaction, you need what? You need three things, right? You need understanding, somebody who actually can enter into a binding agreement who's over the age of 18. You need consideration, that's consideration, right? Then you need the means, right? You need to actually have the cash, and then you have to actually have the signature. You have to actually have the document. You have to have the thing that transacts that makes the sale. So you need these three things. You can't jump to step 3 without step 2. You can't have step 1 without step 2 and 3. It's just, there's no point. So you got to remember that no matter what's going to happen, and even if, right, you're not allowed to disclose on the MLS that you're going to be cooperating with a buyer's broker and how much you're going to be paying them, you still need these brokers in order to be able to transact business. You still need a buyer's agent unless you're awesome and you know how to double end transactions. Last year I double ended 25 transactions, right? I have a total of like 56 or 57, double ended 25 of them, right? So really it was like 75 transactions. I know, right? It's awesome. So how do you break that down though, right? Like how do you figure out how to be able to represent both sides of that deal?
And not go crazy.
Well, no, you just have a good support team. That helps out a lot. Shout out to the Angels. But at the same time, really though, like when you break it down and think about it to yourself, how do you get into that agreement, right? How do you double end a deal? You literally do your job, and you do your job so well that people are like, hey, can you help us buy this house? It's literally that simple. When you are that good at your job, most of the time you are going to end up representing both sides of the deal. And that's for multiple reasons. Number one, just take, for example, the last open house that I did on Sunday. On Sunday, I did an open house. We marketed everything exactly the way it needed to be marketed. Did I have to say anything about a buyer agency agreement or buyer's commissions or anything? No. What did I do? I posted it on local Facebook groups. I made flyers. I delivered the flyers. I recorded myself delivering the flyers. I posted the video of myself delivering the flyers that I recorded on my social media. I boosted a sponsored ad behind it. I went and I knocked the whole neighborhood, right? So yeah, what's going to happen? 10 people are going to show up, and 4 of those people are going to submit offers because it's priced right. Did any one of those people ask me how much they're getting paid? No. Yes, I know you can say, Joe, but it was disclosed on the MLS. Could be. But let me be real with you. When I'm a buyer's agent, when I'm working as a buyer's agent, I don't even know what houses we're going to see. Because what I do is I send all of my buyers automated updates from the MLS. And what they do is I tell them, just like Instagram, they can leave a heart on the listings that they want to go see. And then what happens? The morning of us going out, and once we've confirmed all those showings, I get an email. to my inbox, right? With a list of properties that we're going to go see and printouts of the MLS. Not always is it the full printout. It's just enough information for me to be able to go there and not look stupid while showing my buyers this house that I've never seen before and have no idea what it looks like until I open the door. Is that irresponsible? I don't think so. I think it's being able to maximize the level of performance by having other people work the not necessarily directly applicable income-related activities out of my schedule, because it then allows me to focus on bigger deals, bigger volume. I'm able to sit down in a 3-hour meeting on a Tuesday and not have to stress out about what's happening tomorrow afternoon. Some people can say that's a luxury. I agree with you 100%, but I'm bringing that up with you in order for you to be able to understand that somebody who is in a high production mindset is not sitting here and counting as the difference between 2 or 2.5 or 2.5 and 3. And that's for a couple different reasons. First of all, agents like ourselves, we know how much we're worth. So if ever, thank you, Brooke, if ever I am going to be representing somebody and I'm going to be working with them and the commission is something silly, like during COVID, people were like, well, 1% commission. I would write on the bottom in the additional terms, right? Seller to compensate Joseph Brikman, me, right? With whatever brokerage I was with, X amount of dollars as a buyer's agent commission. That's it. It's in the additional terms. It's in the offer. What you going to do? Nothing. It's there. It's in the offer. You sign it. You agree to it. This is something I've been doing since the day I got licensed. You know why? Because my broker taught me that the day that I came into his office. And he goes, whenever you write a contract, people can be shifty sometimes in Miami. Always make sure it's on the contract. And whether or not that's agreed upon, I don't care. Right now, we're in the Wild West. Nobody knows what the hell's going on. So long as it's convenient, so long as it's something that I can do that does not break any rules and does not make me have to double back and think about my conscience for more than 3 seconds, something that will do. So if I just put the 3% on the contract, 3% on the contract, what you going to do about it? That's the first way to go about it, right? That's not the way that they want us doing this right now. And the reason for that is because right now, this is a reaction to something that happened on the legal end of things. That same broker who taught me how to do that also told me that lawyers, attorneys in the state of Florida are responsible for killing transactions. Attorneys are not your friends. That's what he told me then. I still disagree with that. I believe everybody should have at least one attorney that they consider a friend, because you never know when it'll come in handy. But at the same time, when you sit and you think about that, it's kind of true. The more over litigation, the more overcompensation, in general overcompensation, it ain't all that hot, right? So overcompensating in this particular space, and then at the same time, not knowing what to do about it. I mean, obviously buyers aren't going to want to sign it. Hey, Brooke, I met you, right? I've never met you in person, but like we've been going back and forth. Can you sign this contract for me? You'd be like, what? Why? Why are you signing a contract? Like, what's going on? I don't know you, right? That's literally like, right, exactly. Thanks. No, that's just it. So, what if, however, I called you and I said, Brooke, look, I have an opportunity, for a new development that's happening around the corner from your house that I'm probably going to be representing the builder on, and I'm probably going to be building it, and we're probably going to be working it exclusively. I can't share any of the information with you right now because I have a non-disclosure agreement. However, if you would like to sign a non-disclosure agreement with me for you and I to be able to disclose this information to each other and for both of us to be protected legally, how do you feel about that? Well, there's value in what exactly? There's value 100%. There's value in what I'm offering. And now there's value in what I'm offering that you can clearly see, recognize, understand, and almost feel the dollars. Yeah, sure, totally. I'm down 100%. And if you think about it, how many times have we signed documents without thinking twice, right? Real estate agents are notorious for signing documents without knowing what the hell they're signing or reviewing what they're signing. People in general don't really review what they're signing, especially if it's e-sign. That's why we send 2 copies. We send 1 copy as a PDF to their email and then 1 copy as an e-sign. So like that, they can't say, oh, I never read it, or you're trying to just get us to sign or pressuring us to sign. So keeping that in mind, how am I now going to position this agreement right here? Let's go and share the screen, right? Let's look at this agreement right over here. This is the agreement, right? So this is the agreement that we're looking at right now. For some of y'all, this might be the first time you're actually looking at this agreement. And for those of y'all who don't know where to find this, we're all real here. So it's actually part of the spreadsheet of the links that you have when you join Real or that are in Workplace right now that you can find. They have all these new documents. It literally is like it's a ton of documents. I'll show you. It's like all these documents, right? Consolidated list of all these documents, and here's all the new forms. So you got all these new forms. You have this video over here on buyer representation from our broker, all that fun. And then also remember tomorrow, Huron's actually doing buyer brokerage class himself, right? So this is the real property pre-touring agreement, and then this is the buyer brokerage agreement. So the buyer brokerage agreement, ultimately, if you're just going to give this to somebody and ask them to sign it, what does it say? Let's just skim through it. It says that the consumer, right, which in this case, let's say I'm trying to buy a property from Kimberly. So Joseph Brikman LLC and or related assigned, right, which is my buyer name. You can feel free to put that anywhere that you feel it might be a good deal. Grants, Real Broker LLC, the exclusive right to work and assist consumer in locating and negotiating the acquisition of suitable real property described below. The term require acquisition includes any purchase, option, exchange, lease, or other acquisition of an ownership or equity interest in real property. So this term agreement, right, will begin on, and we usually make these agreements for 1 year, right? So we'll put in today, which is 8/13/2024, and it will expire on 8/13 or 8/12, depending on how you want to count your days, 2025. However, right, if they enter into a contract that is going to start on August 12th of 2025, this is going to go all the way to the end, just like our listing agreement, same thing. So over here, where it says the type of property, we're going to fill in the type of property, which means if somebody is looking to buy a house, we're going to write residential property, right? Or SFH, single family home, right? That's a description that everybody knows and can understand. Location, now on location, right? You're going to just fill in the city. Personally, I like to do the county because who knows what city they'll end up in. Here we have Miami-Dade and Broward County, which are like both super big. So you never really know what city they're going to end up in, right? So I'll write Miami or Miami-Dade County or Fort Lauderdale, Broward County. I'll just make it, easy for them to be able to understand that. Now, these are our obligations, right? Same obligations that we have in our listing agreement. Use our knowledge and skills, help the consumer locate the suitable properties, help them negotiating. The buyer also has rules that they have to abide by, right? They have to actually show up to showings. Hang on, I skipped this over here. We will notify them if there's a offer from somebody else. The consumer understands that even if they're being paid by an owner or a real estate person or a real estate agent, that the buyers still have the responsibility to make sure that the agent gets paid, and at the same time, the agent also has the same responsibilities to the consumer. The broker will still follow fair housing. We don't warranty any third-party people that we refer to them. Basic stuff. And then over here, the consumer obligations, they're going to work with us to help us negotiate properly, give us feedback on the things that we're going on the properties that we're going to be shown them, right? If the buyer contacts or is contacted by an owner, they're going to mix us involved, right? They're going to let us know what is going on. They're going to give us any lenders, any title information, any documents that we'll need in order to be able to present the offer properly. They're going to have to make sure that they make themselves available. They're also going to hold us harmless, right? Now, they're also, again, not asking or expecting to restrict the acquisition of a property according to race, religion, sex, handicap, family status, county, country of national origin, or any other category protected under federal, state, or local law. Question. If the buyer says, hey, only show me properties that are offering 3% commission, is that paid for by the seller? Is that something over here that is going to be protected or excluded by this? Well, I personally think the answer would be no, because it doesn't say anything about that. However, let's continue reading. Consulting an appropriate professional or legal tax, environmental engineering, foreign reporting requirements, and other specialized advice. It really does not look like it. It really does not look like that is something that would be legal for the buyer to request. This over here, this number 6, just by the way, I consider it the same thing like a cancellation fee inside of a listing. It's called a non-confidence fee. It's something that you should never do, never charge, and never, ever, ever use it as a marketing thing. Oh, we don't charge you to work with us. No shit. Excuse me. There might be kids behind you guys, but like no, I mean, obviously, like, why would I charge you to, like, if I don't provide a service to you? Like, these are the people who are going to get out of here really quickly, right? Like those types of people, the people who don't really do much work, but at the same time want to sign 20 different, buyer brokerage agreements. Brooke, in lending space, all the people who start pre-approvals but never actually push them all the way through, right? All the ones who start 1099s but don't did I say 1099s? Wow, it's been a minute. But at the same time, like that's really it. Like all these people who just open up all these numbers, yay, good for you. You signed $1,000 contract, but you're forgetting about all of the responsibilities that you're now like making yourself responsible for, right? Like there is no point. Besides the fact that it also has to go through the broker. So you're not actually just collecting a check. So going through the compensation, right? Broker compensation is earned during the term of this agreement. The consumer or the person working on behalf of the consumer contracts to acquire real property as specified in this agreement. Okay, fair. This compensation is for broker services for consumer, and the compensation is received to the broker. If the compensation comes from the owner or the owner's broker for these services, then that amount reduced by the consumer is going to be the amount due from the consumer, due from the buyer is going to be reduced. So over here in this purchaser exchange, we write 3% right in over here. On the lease, we don't fill that out right now because most of us aren't really doing leases. However, if you are doing a lease, you put in over here 50% of the first month's rent. And then over here, we leave this blank because right now we don't collect option amounts. We don't do any of those contracts. We don't do option agreements. I don't allow anybody on our team to do it. I don't recommend doing it without an attorney. So yeah, then your additional fee over here, we actually train here on our team to collect a $595 transaction fee, which we pass along to our clients. The reason we do that is in order to make sure that full transparency here, which again, the whole purpose of all these disclosures, all these agreements, all these documents, all this stuff is to promote the maximum level of transparency, right? Like that buyers and sellers and buyers and agents and brokers and everybody can feel like they know all the information, right? Like they know exactly what's happening, like everything is disclosed. So we put this over here and we very clearly say, listen, this is a fee that our broker charges us in order to process our files. It is what it is. It's $300 or $400. Then there's a review fee, and then there's like $30, and then there's an errors and omissions fee. So to be completely fair, as your real estate agent, this is the exact script we use. As your real estate agent, I want to let you know how much money I'm actually making while I'm working with you so you can understand where I'm coming from. Okay, well, after everything is said and done, the average real estate sales price is $615,000 here. The average price point that we work with, 615 times 3%, which is the average commission that we collect, is 3, 6, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, $18,500. Let's just say that, right? So if it's $18,500, you minus the 15% that the broker takes from us, it's just about $2,800. You then minus the fees, $600 worth of fees, right? Which is about $3,500. Then you're going to minus commissions. Then you're going to minus taxes, which at the end of the day, I'm really going to walk home with about $12,000. So would you agree with me that if I am going to provide for you every single thing possible in order to be able to get you the exact home of your dreams, that it would be worth it for both of us to agree on you just covering that fee for me? Sure. Thank you very much. Right now, obviously, if you're dealing with like super low price point FHA, 3% down type stuff, and that fee can sometimes make it or break it for them. So that's a little bit different. That is also something you can put in the contract, right? Sometimes we'll pass along that fee to the seller. We'll push that down and just basically tell the seller, hey, look, there's a $595 fee. It's being applied to you. Obviously that doesn't really help that much in negotiations, which is why what we try to do is we try to add it to the buyer side of the contract. This is the same exact thing as when we reach out to lenders to find out if there's a maximum HOA amount that the buyer can have. if there's a maximum tax amount that the buyer can have, if there's a max period that the buyer has within those pre-approvals, because you know just as well as I do how vague a pre-approval can be, right? Like we all know that it can say they're good for $650,000 on a conventional loan, but it doesn't say this conventional 20% down, right? What we do know is that when someone goes through the pre-qualification process, so we can actually run all their numbers and their income, and we can see exactly what their percentage is. So by reaching out to somebody to find out what the compensation amount is going to be, or asking them if they can add additional fees or whatever it is, or if the seller's negotiable, it's nothing different than calling a lender to verify the pre-approval or the pre-qualification letter. So there's nothing wrong with that, right? Now, there's a protection period of 30 days. We don't really do anything more than that because, again, people get a little weird when it comes to their money, and people sometimes feel like, oh, you try to take me for $10 or whatever it is, and that's the way they'll remember you. So you never want to do that. We also never fill in a termination amount. So we never put in an amount for termination. You want to work with me? Great. You don't want to work with me? That's fine. There's thousands of other people who are blowing up my phone. You don't believe me? Where's my phone? My phone right over here. On my phone right now, I have 80 missed phone calls, 6,144 unread text messages, and 23 WhatsApps. Like no BS right here. You can literally see that right here, right now. I hope there are no apps. And I'm just kidding. There's no apps here that I'm scared of anybody seeing. But if you look here and you see that right over there, right? Thank you. You see the automatic filters blurring it out. But these are the amount of notifications that I have. So if you don't believe me, that's fine. I will show it to you. And that is the mindset that we need to have walking into explaining this to buyers. Like, I don't care if you sign this or not. That's fine, right? Because like when people sometimes tell me they don't like me, I look them dead in the eye and I say, I'm sorry, or not, I'm sorry. I never use the word I'm sorry. I say, excuse me, who are you again? Remind me, right? And that's the same sort of approach that we come to this, which is we're so busy. There's so much going on. There's so many different things happening that to us, if you don't feel like I am doing the best, highest, the best job possible in order to be able to help you get your house, totally cool, man. Good luck. Truly, I wish you the best. Dispute resolution is the same thing you have in a listing agreement. The broker's relationship here is disclosing again. The broker will act as transaction broker. Broker will be honest and fairly, will account for all funds. We use skill, care, diligence in the transaction. We'll disclose all known facts that materially affect the value of residential property. They're not really observable by bank. We'll present all offers and counter offers in a timely manner. Useless, yeah, exactly. Useless stuff that we just have to disclose here and put it over here. Yeah, we'll have limited confidentiality with the buyer unless waived in writing. So this over here is the broker's relationship disclosure. What we're basically saying over here is that we are going to do our best to represent the buyer in the best way possible. Is this defining fiduciary relationship? Kind of. I think so, right? This is very, 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 very clearly saying, hey, I am going to be working on your behalf for you, and I will deal with you confidentially unless we waive it in writing, right? Which is why, if you look over here, there's actually another agreement, which is a compensation agreement, right? It's selling to the buyer's broker. And then there's another one over here. Hang on, where's that other agreement? There's this compensation disclosure statement, right? Which this compensation disclosure statement is basically telling whoever it is, hey, we're getting paid. We're just letting you know we're getting paid. And what are we letting them know? The compensation is not subject law, it's fully negotiable. That's literally the only thing that we're saying over here, right? That's it. So this is the new exclusive right of sale, like the listing agreement that we're using, right? If you scroll through it, you'll notice that nothing really changed. Aside for all these different types of disclosures that you have throughout this whole thing, right? Because first of all, we have our compensation amount, right? Which is all over here, same thing. This is a notice right now over here to, by the way, stop for 1 second. Any questions so far? Awesome. So Brooke is speaking on behalf of the crew. We'll continue moving forward, right? Let's jump in right over here. Awesome. Kimberly, thanks for chiming in. I appreciate you actually paying attention to what we got going on. That's awesome. And really excited to get to know you. So looking over here on this notice to seller regarding the buyer broker. The buyer's broker, even if compensated by seller or broker, will provide services for the buyer. Seller is advised and aware that the seller may, but is not required to, compensate a buyer's broker upon closing. Seller may choose to enter into a separate written agreement to pay buyer's broker, may approve broker to pay buyer's broker in accordance with paragraph 10. Seller also understands, A, buyer's broker may include this broker. If broker also works with buyer in this transaction, If this occurs during the duration of the listing, broker will be entitled to the compensation in paragraph 8 for services performed by the seller, as well as the buyer's broker compensation in paragraph 10A. Okay. If the seller should therefore take into consideration when negotiating compensation, and broker may receive separate compensation from buyers for services rendered to buyer by broker. Okay. So I don't know if any of you guys ever ran into this issue where on the old listing agreement, where when we filled out 6% and then 333, that your clients calls you and we're like, hey, what's going on? Am I paying 9% commission? Am I paying 12%? What's going on? And that's when you explain to them that this percentage over here, that we put it over here 6, and then the 333 was going to the buyer agent. So you're going to have that same question from them now. You're going to have to explain to them. You're going to have to say, look, you can just offer to pay me right over here. You can just offer to pay me 6. That's totally okay. I can offer it myself, which is where we have other disclosures over here as well. Or I could just offer it to the buyer's agent, because if I offer it to the buyer's agent, the chances of me being able to actually bring you a buyer is a lot higher. Because I don't know about you, but I don't work for free. I might donate my time. I may, find time to volunteer, but I don't work for free. Like it doesn't happen. So if somebody thinks that I will work for them for free, they can call me, ask me for a donation. If they have a tax deductible organization, we can talk about it depending on the time of the month. But anything other than that, there's absolutely no reason why I will find. By the way, when I do volunteer, right, there are times where certain types of volunteering, you can actually send them an invoice and then you get a tax receipt for your time. There's certain donations you can make, you get tax receipts. These are still considered for me as income. So I'll take that. That's cool. But do not mistake charity for when you are working. Never let those two things be interchangeable. And I do not run a full-time charity, and that is why I need to be paid what I'm worth. So this is where I'm going to explain to the seller that they're going to fill in over here. They're going to fill in 3% and 3% because there are only 2 types of compensation amounts right now. Seller authorizes broker to offer compensation to buyer's broker in the amount of 3% of the purchase price. This compensation will be set forth in a separate written agreement between broker to buyer's broker. That's the broker to broker agreement. Seller authorizes broker to offer compensation to buyer's broker from seller in the amount of 3% of the purchase price. This compensation will be set forth in a separate written agreement between seller and buyer's broker. Third option, no compensation will be offered to buyer's broker. So option C is the same thing that we used to have in the old listing agreement, that we never offered compensation, and it's the same rule. If you never offered compensation, you were never allowed to put it in the MLS to begin with. So that doesn't change. But if I'm going to go over here and I'm going to check this 6% over here on this A, then I'm going to want to check A as well, right? Because the broker is going to offer the compensation to the buyer's broker in the amount of 3%, because 3 plus 3 equals 6. So you take the 6 from up here, it's not filled out, but you take the 6 from up here, from line 109, and you take 3% from here. So 3 plus 3, that 6 becomes 3, because I'm taking 3, they're taking 3. Everybody's happy. Now they changed the conditional termination, same idea. If they wanted to cancel, there's no fee. We never put the cancellation fee because we just never put the cancellation fee because it's called a no confidence fee, and we always have confidence, even if we don't necessarily feel confident, but we always have confidence. So taking this another step further, as you can see, the dispute resolution now is like 11 lines long. This agreement will be construed under Florida law, controversies, claims, whatever. Everybody, basically, if you want to fight with me, you're more than welcome to fight with me, but it's going to go through arbitration. That's basically the way that works. And yeah, this agreement is binding to everybody. So it will continue to pass along generations to generations until it's canceled. And then this is the rest of that information. And that's pretty much the exclusive right of listing agreement when it comes to reviewing a listing agreement here in the state of Florida. Very simple, very straightforward. And as you can see, it took us just under 6 minutes to go through the whole thing. Questions?
No questions for me on this.
Okay, so what you got questions on?
So the only thing I have questions on right now at this moment is the compensation agreement, seller to buyer broker and seller broker to buyer broker. And I asked I asked Rebecca and our team and they didn't really know either. So I've been using the seller broker to buyer broker compensation agreement because that makes sense to me. I feel like the seller to buyer broker compensation agreement would pertain to a FSBO. I mean, I'm the buyer's agent. I don't have a relationship with the seller. Why would I have them sign my compensation agreement? But I could be totally wrong. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, so the funny thing now that you're talking about, those were the next thing we were going to talk about was for sale by owners. For sale by owners are probably going to cease to exist, just by the way. Because what was the biggest thing that a for sale by owner had as an advantage over working with a real estate agent?
Buyers coming directly to them.
Well, more than that, I mean, yeah, it's the same thing, basically. They didn't have to pay anybody, right?
Right.
That's pretty much it. Yeah, I mean, exactly. So, so when you hear that, right, and you go, okay, so buyers come directly to the sellers. Um, a very big way to overcome that objection in dealing with sellers was like, hey, but obviously you're not a full-time real estate agent, so do you actually want to now have to go show all these buyers and work with all these buyers? Most of the time they'd say no, right? And that's where you start working on saying, look, well, we're super well knowledgeable, skilled, and have a process down pat to actually work with buyers and sell your house a little faster and actually take that full-time job that you just applied for without knowing it away from you, because we do this full-time, so we can actually make it happen. And this is the system, the processes, and everything else that we break down for them. So in doing that, reaching on out for sale by owners and saying, hey guys, well, I see, here's the reality. The reality is that you actually don't have to offer anything to the buyer's agent. Oh, really? No, you don't. I mean, I recommend it. But technically speaking, if you're looking to only have to pay one side, I mean, hi, my name's Joe and I stumbled into 25 houses last year, right? Like that means one house every 2 weeks, basically, pretty much, that we sold that was purchased by both parties through our brokerage, which essentially means that we were only charging 4%. How? Well, see, because the way that we sign this agreement is we basically say that if we do find a buyer on our terms, meaning we do all the marketing, we incur all the expenses, we send the mailers, we host the open houses, we bring somebody, then we're actually going to show you our thanks for giving us the opportunity to work with you, because we are still growing our presence here in the area. Some agents have been around here for 20 years. We've only been around for 4. And in the last 4, we've sold over 100 houses. Why, right? So you see how we wire all of that? It's all wired in a way where we're not trying to, hey, look at us, we sold 100 houses in the last 20. No, that's how I know everything I know. That's how I'm so experienced. That's how I'm sharing all the confidence. And that's why you hear and you feel excited and motivated when you jump into a class like this, because it's not that I'm sitting here trying to, please trust me, all the BS I'm telling you, and just please don't Google me. No, Google me, look me up, right? Because I've spent that time investing in building that into yourself. Now, I'm not going to say, lots of times people get turned off when I say that, because people, oh, Joe, yeah, but that's someone like you. Like you work 18 hours a day and you have all your stuff figured out, you're coaching and training and all this other stuff. And I go, you're right. I agree with you. But how did I get here? I got here because at a certain point, I decided, you know what? Screw the BS story I tell myself every single day and forget it. Who really cares? And that's when I really just started getting really, 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 really real. Am I doing all those dials? We've dialed over 1,700 dials since the beginning of the month. We've had 100 conversations. We've set 5 appointments. We've signed 4 listings. Like these are literally the numbers right here on RedX. Like I keep saying RedX. Yeah, RedX. Exactly it. Like here, I'll log in and I'll show you. Like this is literally the platform, right? So we're gonna go here just to the pulse so you can see what's going on. And you shall see that right here we have, as of this month, 107 contacts, which 107 conversations, 5 appointments set. And then here on the MLS, we got like, if it's going to make me have to relog in again, we're not going to go through that because it's been a little bit of work. But at the same time, we have these 5 new listings that we have that are going on, right? And this is a direct conversion from these dials. So by going through that work and by doing all that stuff, yeah, I probably won't ever have this seller buyer's broker's agreement, because what I'll end up doing is I'll end up just signing a listing agreement, right? And I'll end up signing a compensation disclosure statement. So on the one hand, let's just go through this real quick. So we have this. Seller's broker, this is a referral agreement, dude. This is a referral agreement. Think about it. Seller's broker, buyer's broker, broker A, broker B, property, okay, referral. Buyer's name, I mean, yeah, okay, we don't, on a referral agreement, usually have the buyer's name. Again, the only people who will not put the buyer's name on something like this will be people who don't trust themselves in their business. So they'll feel like, oh my God, if I tell you who my buyer is, we're going to go around them. No, there's nothing to be worried about. This is not business for everybody. I'm not chasing your buyer. Fill it out. Term. This compensation agreement will remain in effect for, literally, I'll put the date of closing. So if they're going to offer me 45-day closing, 45 days. There is no way that this term will extend past termination date of the listing agreement. I mean, that just makes sense. Any extensions, protection periods, anything like that, this is where full disclosure is going to start becoming full disclosure, because you're going to start sharing your listing agreements with people. The seller's broker will compensate the buyer's broker as stated at closing of the property prior identified above paragraph 3, closing the property and buyer's broker's procuring clause and sale of the property. That's why you'll have your buyer brokerage agreement. Your buyer brokerage agreement. In no way, shape, or form should you be required to share your buyer brokerage agreement with the listing agent. Because your buyer brokerage agreement, as we just saw before, literally has your buyer's contact information on it. Where is that form? Right over here, buyer information. They can keep asking for it all they want, but they are not entitled to it. The only person who needs to get this buyer brokerage agreement is the title company. That is it. However, if you are going to be submitting a contract that's going to say that the seller is going to be compensating you for your commission, some people might still think that you have to share the listing or the buyer brokerage agreement with them. You don't. It goes to the title company. Fill out this document with me. This referral agreement of sorts. Right? Fill out this agreement. Well, not this one, this one. Let's do this. That's fine. Seller's broker, broker authorized associate. Hi, we're all authorized associates. We don't necessarily have to be brokers. So you use that over here and you do this, right? So you don't, yeah, just fill this one out, call it a day. Okay. Let's go over this seller to buyer broker compensation agreement real quick. Seller buyer broker compensation agreement between the buyer's broker, which would be us. Seller would be the idiot who doesn't want to list it on the MLS. Yes, I called him an idiot. He's an idiot because he's actually, well, I wouldn't call him to his face an idiot just because it's disrespectful, but he is kind of silly. And I will tell him that to his face. And I won't say, hey, you're silly. I'll be like, hey, actually, I've seen people do this. And I think it's kind of silly, but why do you think that I'm here as a real estate agent? Why do you think I pay $1,200 a year to the MLS? I don't know. Well, you see, one of the biggest things that we as real estate agents can actually offer to our clients is an exclusive network. You can't use this when you're recruiting people, but you can use this when you're talking to clients because it's true. We have an exclusive network of people that actually we're all licensed as real estate agents, which means that we have to adhere to a code of ethics, B, we actually have certain standards that we have to enforce within our industry. We also have a governing body. So we have the Department of Justice's idea of the legal department here in the National Association of Realtors for the state of Florida. Was that 3? Yeah, we also have skills, knowledge that we constantly train on because we are licensed professionals. And then did I mention the MLS? The network that we have for all of us to be able to stay connected and share listings with each other, which guarantees that every single listing is going to be delivered in a certain standard. Things like having a refrigerator and a stove as standard and AC as standard. Obviously, if it's not, you have to disclose it. But these are things that certain people can just understand and assume automatically from being on the MLS. So if they're not going to be on the MLS, then yes, you know what? You might end up signing this agreement with me because you're only going to pay one side of the commission. But on the other hand, you're just losing out all this exposure from all these other thousands of people, because as far as I know, there are 23 million people who live in the state of Florida. 1 million of those people are real estate agents. The average person has 5 friends. So if there's 1 million real estate agents, that means that there's 6 million people that you're going to be able to see this property with just the sphere of influence, just with their friends and family. There are about 10 million people who are Googling properties in the state of Florida every month. So if you're looking at those numbers, you're looking at covering a very good, probably 65, 70% by listing on the MLS. Otherwise, you're literally limiting it just to 25. And on the days that I'm anti-social, you're actually limiting it to nobody because nobody's going to find out about this listing. But when it's on the MLS, it's online, it's accessible. It's very, very simple and very, very easy. So buyer broker compensation will be 3%. Dispute resolution, arbitration, broker's commissions are not set by law, seller signature, buyer broker signature. The parties acknowledge this form should not be used to share offers of compensation to buyer brokers or other buyer representatives via any field of the multi-level listing service. That's all they care about. Just don't put it on the MLS. Do whatever you want. Don't put it on the MLS. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? We have a website where all of our listings are going to be live. It's literally like that easy. And you just make another website and you can put the property website on the MLS. Redirect people to that website. In your virtual tour videos, put 3%. Redirect people off the MLS. Just redirect people off the MLS to other websites. This is a phenomenal time to leverage CRMs, websites, systems, which, by the way, we have all of those. Then all you got to do is create a property listing and put 3% buyer brokerage commission. You don't even have to go through all of this. But again, when you're working with a seller, you need to explain to the seller exactly why this is, and this is the reason why we do that. It's an exclusive buyer brokerage agreement. The last thing I wanted to cover before we pop that off here in 5 minutes, just about, would be talking about the property pre-touring agreement. Now, this document over here is literally broken down to anybody over the age of 4 who can read English can understand this agreement. I think they pulled the move right out of Trump's book, literally pulling things down to explain them even to a 4-year-old. I am a real estate licensee with Real Brokerage LLC. Consumers, collectively consumer, will use broker services to view properties the parties mutually agree upon for 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, 4 day, 5 day, 90 days. Brokerage commissions are not set by law and fully negotiable. Hey, by the way, if you weren't aware, buyer brokerage agreements are fully negotiable. You don't owe the broker any compensation at this time. If you wish to work with broker to purchase property, broker's compensation for services broker provides to you will be as follows, unless amended by the parties in writing: 3% of the gross purchase price, plus $5.95 due at closing. If you wish to work with broker to purchase a property, broker may ask you to sign a separate agreement detailing the parties' responsibilities during the sale. Okay, that makes sense. A seller or listing broker may agree to pay some or all of the above compensation. If a seller or listing broker agrees to pay broker for services broker performs for you, broker will reduce the amount you owe accordingly. Okay, that's a little bit not 4th grade level, but a 12th grader can understand that. If you choose a property already listed by broker, seller may pay broker for services broker performs for seller, and you will not be responsible for this compensation. Okay, cool. Broker's compensation from any source will not exceed the amount of compensation in a written agreement with you. This is where it might get tricky. If you're a transaction broker, wait, so if I sign 3% over here and I have 6% on my listing agreement, what do I accept? 6%, obviously, because you're operating in 2 separate capacities. One is a buyer agent, the other one is a seller agent, a listing agent, and one has nothing to do with the next. Matter of fact, your client should be happy for you and celebrate you for the fact that you're able to actually earn double of the commissions. And if not, that's okay. Not everybody can always be happy for everybody else. Doesn't always work like that, unfortunately, in today's day and age. So screw them. Tell them thank you. Give them a closing gift. Make sure they leave you a 5-star review. Add them to your automated follow-ups and to your mailers and invite them to all your client events and let them continue sending you referrals. That's all you have to do. Don't take it personal. Remember, everything in this business, anyways, as it is supposed to be fun. Because if you're not having fun, then why are you spending your time doing it? Literally, I mean, you can literally go call your ex and be miserable. Like, there's no need to have to now. No, okay, I kind of say that, but I say that like, you know, why do you have to now like sit here and be miserable about your business? Like, business should be fun. Okay, it might not be fair to some of the exes because some people do have good relationships with their exes. Personally, I don't. So like, that's the way I think. So because of that, like, really for me, it's a matter of saying, no, I want to do things that will get me to where I want to go, right? This is one of the reasons I have a map right over here on the wall. This is literally a map of the entire world, right? And sometimes I'll get up and I'll take a pin and I'll just shove it into a new spot, right? And I'll literally look over here and I'll say, what would life look like to be if I was here? And I will remind myself, okay, there you go. And I will remind myself that even if I am in Bermuda, which is where this ended up on the map, right? I have the North Atlantic Ocean right over here. Even if I'm in Bermuda, what do I have? I have something called cash confidence. Cash confidence means Not how much money I have in the bank makes me confident. That makes me cocky. That's not confidence. That's cockiness. Confidence is understanding that even if I ended up in Bermuda and I had to rebuild all this again, I had to build everything again from scratch, from the beginning, not only will I be able to rebuild it again, but chances are I'll probably build it even bigger and even better because I have all the knowledge, experience, and lessons that I've learned in building from where we are today to where we are right now. And when you understand and operate with that mindset, it's literally impossible for you to feel discouraged. It's impossible for you to allow yourself to get yourself down because you realize that at the end of the day, there were only so many people that are actually paying attention to you and looking at every little flaw you have. Of those little people, there's like nobody who actually cares. Of those people, if you actually call them to complain about those flaws, they probably wouldn't even reply back to you. The reason they wouldn't reply back to you is because they don't care. And once you start realizing that, you can now understand that this whole idea of cash confidence is knowing that I can get out there and I can rebuild anything at any time, anywhere, probably bigger, probably better, probably stronger than anywhere else and then at any time, because wherever I go, what does Sharon say? I go and I am where my feet are. I am pay attention, I am present, and I am fully focused on getting and overcoming what I need to do ahead of me right here, right now, today. And that's the way that we as a team are going to be working our way into these new requirements, the buyer brokerage agreements and everything else that's coming along with an open mind, with a bunch of confidence, and with a ton of energy to actually be able to deliver on the back end for all of our clients. I really hope that you found this class valuable. And if there are any questions or anything else I can answer for you before we pop on off, now would be the time. All
Joe,
right.
this was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
I'm glad that you enjoyed. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. And let's make it a great day, great week. If there's anything I can do to help you guys out in any way, hit me up.
Awesome. Will do.
Thank you so much.
Later.
All right.